So you're suggesting that all of these problems that you outlined are then a product of the emergence of the insurgency? You don't see them as being sort of part of why the insurgency?
They were there, but their factor in day-to-day life was not the same. It was not the same. You could actually, first of all, of course, the other thing is also you didn't have, you had by and large a very strong agrarian economy. Most Kashmiris were out in the villages, so you had a self-sustaining cycle of life in those, and there was really very little migration from the people who would come from village to the city would never really stay there; they would go back. You did not have it. This broke down the moment essentially the division became to the point where. And you can see that even in the budget, the way outlay, you look at the budget outlay, you look at actually the investment the state will eventually make in this budget for new year into agricultural economy. It will be pittance, because there's nobody in the elites is going to go up there with the fertilizer and see what the thing is going on.
You will see that. What does that have to do with the insurgency? I'm just trying to.
No, insurgency took a life.
That's linked to
yeah,
the
insurgency took a life. Insurgency took a life. After it was found out, it does contribute to the synergism that I just talked about earlier started growing, because certainly you did find out that the people who were the haves actually ended up having more and more, and having more and more, and that's why there is no incentive for them really to give up what they have. I mean, any change in the Kashmir, that would bring tremendous changes. And in the way of its governance, in the way of its, it will be held accountable. It can't do anymore. I mean, I'll give you an example. At one time, the state was buying electricity. It had to buy not electricity. It's a daily cash. There's a daily cash account where you borrow it from the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India puts a limit that you cannot exceed like 10% of the annual budget. That cannot be more than it. Well, state broke that because state wanted more money. And state also said, no, we have Article 370, we don't want to use the Reserve Bank of India, we want to use J&K Bank. I'll tell you how J&K Bank made money. So government did that and all that, and what happened was, gave in. The only problem was the RBI rate was 5% interest rate. J&K Bank said, if you borrow less than 600 crores, it is going to be 21%. If you borrow more than 600 crores, it is going to be 18%. So it actually disincentivized the people from borrowing less, because and the rate is 21%. Now, this is your own bank. So you could argue, why would my own bank charge me higher? I would pay it. The idea was that you were basically robbing Peter to play Paul, because you were basically going to get that money from the federal government at the end of the day, and you would basically so J&K Bank. When RBI was charging 5%, state didn't want to deal with them. State wanted to deal with its own bank because it would be a higher interest, but at the end, Indian government was paying that money, so it didn't matter, they were paying 21% or 25%. Yes, this change actually did promote this problem. The insurgency fueled the desire to retain the status quo and consolidate the status quo.
Okay, we have a couple of short questions, and we can continue with these in the discussion session. Kaisar.
I think you have a very good analysis of the issues. You identified real issues, which seems to be legitimate, and showed the whole picture, like corruption, ecology, women's gender issues, disabilities, and all that. But then it's the same all over South Asia. Even the dogs you mentioned, if you go to Karachi, it's the same situation. Electricity, supply, corruption. How would make a case that it's different than the rest of the South Asia in Kashmir?
I mean, you are looking for a solution in Kashmir. That's why I'm arguing. Because if Karachi was looking for a solution, I will argue the same thing. Karachi will not get a solution. You have Pashtuns on one end, you have Sindhis on the other end, you have Mujahids on the other end. You are not going to get a solution. But you are not looking for a solution to Karachi. Karachi will continue like this, and Kashmir will continue like this.
Of course, there was a money game. What happened in 1953 when Bakshi Ghulam Ahmad came, and he spent a lot of money. He corrupted the Kashmiri society. And similarly, we faced another corruption in 1989 when Pakistani side had put the money and they have corrupted the local society. My question is that if the problem is not going resolved, the issue, the main issue is not going resolved, every time we have to face this money game. Every time we have to face the money game. And I'm thankful that even then you have highlighted the day-to-day issue there. Those are the issues to be addressed, but at the same time you cannot ignore the main issue.
No, I would like as much, I mean, I'm one of the people also who says Kashmir is an unresolved issue. My problem is I'm trying to look for a solution. And I mean, you go to my website, that's the first message you'll see. I feel, quite frankly, we have to understand the roles and responsibilities of a citizen. And put our effort in developing that before we look for a solution. We don't have one. Yes, sir.
The real insurgency, as we see in our present times, really started from that point. When Farooq Abdullah was duly elected government, defections were engineered by Congress Party, and he was formally dismissed by Governor Jagmohan at that time. And I remember that day, he used to live at Gukar Road, and we were like kids, and we went to his residence in the evening, and he came out in the evening, and there were tears rolling down Farooq Abdullah's eyes, and he addressed the gathering outside, and he said in Kashmiri that India has stabbed me in the back today, and I will teach India a lesson. Their generations will regret what they did to me today. And I think he kind of did what he said he will do.
And then maybe it's very interesting because right after that he actually came to London to give a lecture, and I was also invited to the same lecture. It's on my website, where basically was an audience of J.K. Alaf, was his old mates were in the audience at the thing, and I was literally lynched because I said I liked the idea of LOC at that time. But after that meeting, I asked him, because he lost a lot of cadre of Kashmiri Pandits from the National Conference right after he signed up with the Action Awami League, which he did at that time, the double forum thing. So I asked him, that was a game changer for our community because you had just assigned yourself. He said, I had no choice because the Congress was killing me. They wanted to control me, and I said, yeah, but you went from devil to the deep sea as far as I'm concerned. And because that basically discouraged your national conference till then had a very strong Kashmiri Pandit presence, and they all left because they had trying to remember that name. It was a very interesting guy who was at that time in joined their party. Later he was head of the BJP and all that in the state. I mean, one of those, and he gives speeches, very fiery speeches, and about Islam and how we're going to straighten up. I mean, at that time, he was standing up for MP at that time, and in that election, and he did acknowledge that but he didn't, of course, say to me the rest of the stuff. But he did acknowledge that he did that because he felt squeezed by Congress, and he had to react to it.
Okay, we'll take one more question, Kabir.
One thing which was very interesting, the last screen which you put up, as to Sufism and Wahhabism. So that to me kind of brings a thought that it is also internationalization of the conflict, like of Afghanistan, because Wahhabism is is a Saudi thing. So all that money, and which you also mentioned that Pakistan has restricted and sealing over what they are putting in. So the outside money is coming over from Saudi to to make it more international sort of thing. And so Wahhabism, which was very interesting, I didn't know that it is becoming more relevant now. Because Sufism, as you well know, is very liberal sort of outlook towards religion, life, and ethnicity.
It's really the spillover from the changes that are actually taking place in Pakistan. I mean, Pakistan for a long period of time, they had sectarian violence, but until a year and a half back, they did not have attacks on Sufis. The attacks on Sufis started only a year and a half back. And actually I wrote an article at that time called Pakistanization of Kashmir, which was my concern that it will actually eventually end up. Because what happened was that there was a lecture that was done by Aisha Siddiqa at Stimson Center, and she gave she had some parameters which are also on my website, which she gave some parameters of changes that are taking place in Pakistan. And she had predicted that these Sufi attacks will eventually it will go from Lashkar Jangvi and these people to Sufism. And I read them and I told myself, my God, same changes are taking place in the Kashmiri society. We will have, and what I didn't know at that time, because nobody talked about this silent war, cultural war that was taking place. It only became public last year in April, when Maulana Shaukat basically was killed. So then it became popular. So I went to these guys and said, hey, you gotta sit down and tell me what's going on. Why is this guy getting killed? And then I realized it's really Pakistanization of Kashmir. I mean, it's the same. It's not to say that there is not Saudi money coming, but that Saudi money is also in Pakistan. And so it is Pakistanization of Kashmir actually.
I just want to say though, on the other hand, attacks on Sufis are happening in Egypt as well. So it is more than the Pakistanization of Kashmir. I think you're right. There is something that is kind of, growing in the whole side of that world. So, because, this is something new. Sufism was never really embraced by any of the Arab nations. However, there were never any attacks on Sufis. But now there are, after the, so-called revolution.
But I was looking more in the contemporary South Asian scene. I totally agree with you. I think Salafist constituencies are roughly about 26–28% in Egypt, and it's beginning to show a very strong presence, quite frankly, after the revolution. That's very true.
Money game. The Raja Sahib mentioned is who is doing this, who is playing this. But my question is, where is in this case the nation of the Kashmir?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Unfortunately, that is still a jello. Nation of Kashmir is the jello. It is. You can squeeze it like this, it'll come out from here. You'll squeeze it up like that, it'll come out from there. It doesn't. That's the problem. It doesn't. There is not a coherence of substance that you can say, I will squeeze it and it will still hold itself, and it will not get squished one way or the other. This is the problem. If there was a strong core of nation of Kashmir, it would be a different situation altogether.
It means you said they need the education.
They need nationhood. I mean, education is part of it. Yes, they need nationhood. They need that sense of that we got to do. I mean, I challenge them right now. I say that you go to Srinagar right now. You see these rich kids who are not employed or anything like that, but their parents are making so much money. So they give them 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 monthly remittance, to just fool around the city. And in the thing, I tell them, you will get 31, 32 years old. You look in the mirror and say, what the heck did I do? No, I said, well, I'll find a business. I'll go there. I'll go to India. I'll do something. I mean, the sense of taking responsibility is still very much down.
It's a sad situation. You need the education.